Welcome to the IE427 garage, everybody. Today I'm working on the King's Cobra, and I'm working on wiring all the gauges for the dash. So what I'm doing is I'm using all of the factory connectors that came with the Speed Hut gauges and with the Ron Francis harness, and they just plug together. Now, Speed Hut has changed their wiring methods. So if you've got a Ron Francis harness that has these connectors on them, you may find that they don't plug right in to your new Speed Hut gauges, and that's because Speed Hut has gone to a connector called a Wago. And what the Wago is you strip the wires, you feed them into the connector, and you fold over a little locking tab, and that allows you to lock the wire in and make a splice connection. And it's a series of those all on one connector. So 4, 5, 6. The Wago connectors can be as big as 8 connectors, I think. But that's what they're using now. So just because this one looks a little bit different, don't let that throw you. The colors of the wires have remained the same. So that part is all going to be exactly the same as what we're doing here. Now, what I've done in the cases where we didn't have a connector is I've gone ahead and I've stripped the wires, I've soldered them, and then I've used some heat shrink to keep the wires nice and secure and safe. So I've got the constant power here, which feeds the clock. I've got the brown, which goes to a red wire in the Speed Hut gauges to supply power to the gauge. I've got the black, which is a ground, and I've got the whites, which are the instrument lights. So the lights inside the gauge, the pointers and the backlighting, all go to the whites now. On the other side, I've got the turn signal indicator that is actually in the face of the speedometer. So I've got a right and a left here, and then there's another light in there, which is a blue light for your high beam indicator, and I've got that tied into our brown high beam wire for the Ron Francis harness. The last wire to the speedometer is going to be the red, and that's the constant power. So this speedometer needs 12 volt constant power from your battery so that it retains the memory in the GPS. So when you pull in your garage and it loses signal, it remembers where you were last. So when you go ahead and start your car up and roll outside, it will quickly gain access to that GPS satellite, and your speedometer will work quicker. If you've got it tied to regular ignition source power, what's going to happen is you're going to have to drive a block or two, maybe even a mile, before it gets the signal from the satellite and your odometer and speedometer start working. So it's important that you tie that one to the right power source. The other one that goes to a hot power source all the time is also the clock. So you want to make sure that has constant power so that you don't have to reset your clock each and every time you drive your car. So I'm working on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up what I'm working on now, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dress all the wires. So I'm going to get some small tie wraps, probably the 4-inch skinny tie wraps. I'm going to get the wires all dressed so that this can go back in the car and I can tie in the dash harness to the actual chassis harness. This is going to be for all the guys that were lecturing me about having the air cleaner assembly off of the King's Cobra here and telling me that I was going to accidentally drop something down the carburetor. You can see the carburetor is off, and there was a plate underneath the carburetor. So nothing that I would have accidentally dropped down the carburetor would have gone into the intake manifold. I'm pulling this off right now and putting the carburetor, which is sitting over on the workbench here, I'm pulling that off and putting the carburetor back on so that I can adjust the linkage for the accelerator, the mechanical pedal assembly from Mike Forte. And so obviously that has to come off. I didn't want to inadvertently have someone, sit in the car and push on the accelerator and bend the butterflies of the carburetor against that plate, which would have been far worse for the carburetor than having the air cleaner assembly off. So there you go. That's why I wasn't too worried about not having the air cleaner assembly on there. All right, everybody, next day, I am continuing to work on the dash. I've got all of the wires strapped. Now, you can make this as neat as you want. I've made them to where they're perfectly in line and, it's like a work of art. And then no sooner did I get the dash installed in the car, or we went to put the body on, and one of these Speed Hut gauges took a dump. So I've learned my lesson, and what I do now is I will strap the wires together in groups, like all of the sensors, where the sensor wires come in. And I'll make them somewhat neat, but I want them to be able to come out easily if, God forbid, one of them fail and I need to send it in for repair. One of my friends, Kleiner, always says the Speed Hut gauges come with a great warranty because they have to. And I believe that's still the case. I think we've only gotten through one build where we didn't have a problem with at least one of the gauges. And generally the first gauge to go is the clock. The clock will last, the first year or so, and then it takes a dump. And then you're sending it in and they have to repair it, or it's out of warranty and you have to buy a new one. So as I said, Jeff has a saying, they have a good warranty because they have to, and I still kind of believe that. I hope they're making improvements to these to make them more reliable, but they're still a good looking gauge. I mean, when you look at these from the front, they have a traditional look to them, and they're electronic. So you get a reverse sweep on the speedometer that looks, period correct, but you don't have to go through the hassle of getting a speedometer reverser and all the crap that goes along with it. So you can see I haven't cut off the tails yet, and I'll probably wait on that. And I'm going to tell every one of you guys, now this is my backup pair. I don't know where my good pair of end nippers are, but these little cutters, they're called flush cutters. You can pick up a cheap pair like this at Harbor Freight. I've got a nicer pair that are a little bit more expensive that do a better job of flush cutting the tails on the tie wraps. But a flush cutter will cut this flush so that as you're reaching your hand up behind the dash to try to access something, it's not going to rip you open like a knife. And so either do one of two things. Either leave the tails long like this so they don't cut you, or get a set of flush cutters so that it cuts that tail off flush with the end of the lock of the tie wrap, and it doesn't open a wound up on you that gets blood all over the inside of your car. So that's about as far as I'm going to take the wiring on the dash. It's ready to go in the car. And I'm probably going to highlight any other stuff that has to do with the dash when I do the turn signal install. But for now, what happened is, it's my own fault. I sent a quick message to the car owner, and I asked him if there was anything else he wanted to add electrically to the car, before we finished up the wiring. And so we have a few last minute additions. So over on this side of the car, in the passenger side footbox, we're going to do our traditional under dash panels that connect from the bottom of the dash to the point right here at the 2-inch cross tube. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a 12-volt outlet, and I thought I had that. So a traditional 12-volt outlet, and you'll be able to see this if I can get it open with one hand. So you can plug in like a GPS unit. Like if you've got a Garmin GPS or one of those with the cigarette style end on it, you can plug it into here. And then I got in the mail a USB, a double USB connector, and that is right here. So this is a double USB connector. It comes with its own little wire harness with a fuse. We're not going to use that. We're just going to put spade connectors. The circuits that we're using are already fused. This one has a digital readout on it, so it'll tell you the battery voltage and stuff. Be careful, only attach this to a switched circuit. So over on the other side of the car, we're going to attach that to probably, since it's probably going to be used for charging phones and whatnot, I may just tie it to the wiper circuit. So I've got a wiper circuit right here. I've also got a heater circuit right here that I could tie it to. I could tie it right here to the radio power. I don't want that one. Where's the radio power? Radio power, radio. Okay, radio power is right here. So this is a switched outlet. You'll notice it already has a spade connector on the end of it. So I can tie it to this and it'll charge phones and what have you. Then the radio memory, I can tie that to the 12-volt outlet. So this one, you'll have to physically plug it in to have power for your GPS or whatever. So this one will be hot all the time. This one will be switched, the one that I was just showing you with the USBs. So that one will be switched. And the reason for that is the one that has the USB has a small transformer inside of it. It takes 12 volts from the car battery or the alternator when the alternator is charging, and it turns that into 5 volts. So because there's a transformer in there, as long as there's power to it, it's drawing power. And I think some guys miss that when they put these in the car. They think, oh, it's not gonna take any power unless something's plugged into it. Well, no, it takes power all the time. Just like those wall chargers for your phone. As long as they're plugged in, they're charging, whether your phone's plugged into it or not. So that's the same kind of deal we're running here. We're gonna make sure that that's on switch power. The 12 volt, the cigarette lighter style, I'm not worried about because chances are you're going to unplug that when you turn off the car anyway. So that's normally the way we wire those. And then the last thing that, he added a couple more things I'm waiting on some lights. The same type of lights we used on the last couple of cars. Those are the trailer license plate lights. We're going to put one here, one over on the other side. That's going to give a little bit of light into the foot boxes and the foot area of the car and the cockpit. It'll be activated by this circuit here. I ran the dome light power from the headlight switch out to this end of the car. You can see I've got 2 grays and 2 reds. So I fed the harness in through here. So let's see if you see that. There's a grommet right there. So that goes into the 2-inch main tube of the dash and comes out over here. And then I'm sending 2 more wires, a red and a gray, over to the other side of the car. And that's where I'm going to make up those connections for those lights. So we'll put another light right here next to the chassis number on the chassis right here. So that light will go right here. And then you can see that I've got the 2 wires over here. The last thing we're gonna add is a light in the trunk. So I took the purple wire that would have come out here for the brake lights, and since we're doing the rectangular lights with the trailer light converter, we no longer need that purple. We're going to use this white for both stop and turn. I rerouted this purple wire into the harness that comes up here into the trunk. And so we use this power to activate a tilt switch. This is a mercury-filled tilt switch. So when this thing goes to a certain degree or angle, it'll turn on some lights here in the trunk. We're probably going to use the little LED strip that Factory 5 gives you for, I don't know what they give them for. Maybe they give them for under dash lights or something like that. But we're going to use them here in the trunk. We're going to mount them right underneath the hoop here. And then he'll have lights in the trunk when he opens the trunk deck lid. And then on the other side of the car, that purple is still inside of this harness. What I did is I just turned it around inside the harness. I capped it off, and so it's still here. What I've done on the other side is where that purple wire would normally go into this 4-pin connector, I've replaced that with a red wire. So you can see the red wire right here where my finger is. And that red wire goes into the dash power for the constant hot to like the speedometer and the clock and stuff like that. That light isn't going to draw a whole lot, so I'm not worried about overloading that circuit. So that's what we did there, and that feeds both of those purple wires in the back of the car. So once we hook all that stuff up, it'll just work. So that's what I'm working on now. Oh, last thing, we got the turn signal up here. I'm still working on an install video for that, but this purple wire, this brown wire that would have gone to the alternator, I'm not pointing fingers. It's a common thing to do. The owner of the car just put some tape over the end of this, and then he kind of folded it back in the harness, and then used black tape to kind of hide it inside the split loom. I went a step further. I took the tape off. The problem with the tape is that the adhesive over time gets real sticky and gummy. And so if you were ever to want to use this wire in the future, it just turns into a sticky mess. And so I chose to take that off now while the tape was still fresh. I put a piece of shrink tubing over it so that this can just be cut if he decides that he wants to add an alternator that's not just a tractor alternator to the engine. And he'll have that. And on the other end of it, where is it? I've got it over there on the other end of the car. So we're going to take this and we're going to push it back into the split loom and then re-secure this end of the split loom with some new tape. On the other end, I've got it fed in with that stuff on this side of the car, that right here. So like the radio power and stuff, I've just got it over here. If he ever wants to take out that tractor alternator, now it's a nice looking tractor alternator, but if he ever wants to take that thing out and add an actual alternator that needs an excite wire, then he can replace that with like a 4 or a 5G Ford alternator, and he'll have that excite wire ready to go. So that's what I've got going on as far as all the electrical in the car. I'm going to keep working on it over the next couple of days. I'm hoping to get those lights maybe Monday. So today is Saturday, it's the weekend. Hoping I get those lights on Monday, I can put those in. And then I can put the dash in temporarily and fabricate some under dash panels. So hopefully when I bring you guys back right now, we'll be working on those under dash panels. All right, it's next day, everybody. Here's where I'm at. I've started fabricating our under dash panels, and they're pretty simple to make. They've got two slight break angles on them. One here where it meets the dash and one where it goes underneath the 2-inch square tube. And I've just got them held in with some vice grips right now. But these are real simple. They are 11 inches across, 7.5 inches in depth. I cut those on the stomp shear. You could use tin snips. You could use a pair of electric shears. Basic metalworking shears. Whatever you have handy. And both are the same. They get the same broken angle at the top and the bottom. The difference over on the driver's side, and it's not imperative that you do this. It's just that it just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. I cut a little 45-degree, can you see that there? A little 45-degree angle on the bottom of this one. And it just gives me a little bit of room, so I'm not, especially when the carpet's in, I'm not banging against this corner panel right here. It just allows it to fit a little bit easier. Now, we don't have anything going in the panel over here. I'm just going to clean this panel up, drill it, and put the mounting screws in temporarily just to hold everything in place. Then the panels will both be coming off, and we'll send them into powder coat, because I think I have some other pieces to send in for powder coating as well. On the other side, I'm actually going to put a USB outlet and a 12-volt outlet in. And I think I went over this earlier, but I have a 12-volt outlet and I have a USB outlet that are going to go on the panel closest to the driver. That'll allow both the passenger and the driver access to the USB and 12-volt ports, and it'll keep it away from the knee of the passenger, or as far away from the knee as we can make it. You can extend panels all the way across, but I just found that doing it the way we do it, with one panel on each side, gives you access to the middle of the dash if you have some type of roadside emergency where you have to get into some of the wiring that's underneath the dash. So I've just become accustomed to doing two separate panels, one on each side. There are other options available. This is just the way we do it here at our shop. So let me go ahead. I'm going to clean up the edges of these. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill the holes for the USB outlet and the 12-volt outlet. And then I'm going to get them mounted in the car. I'll bring you back and have you take a look at them before I take them off for the final time and get them ready to send in for powder coat. I just went out to the front to collect the mail and met the mailman while I was out there, and he handed me a package. I wasn't expecting anything today. And he handed me a package, and so not knowing what it was, I brought it back here to the shop, and I opened it up, and inside was this right here. And I don't have our address listed anywhere, so I'm assuming that it was one of my customers, either someone I've built or am building a car for, or one of our turn signal or other product customers. So whoever you are who sent this to me anonymously, I appreciate it, because I did not have one of these. And quite honestly, I've been looking at one online. It keeps coming up on one of my social media pages, my feeds. And I saw one, and God, when I priced it, it was like almost $200. And I thought, I can't justify $200 just to check a bolt size. So I kind of put it off, and then this arrived today. So whoever you are, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It will be well used. Under dash panels are back in the car. I went ahead and I installed the 12-volt outlet and the USB outlet in the panel, but they'll have to come out for powder coat and whatnot. So I just wanted to make sure that after I, trimmed them and bent them and cleaned them and took the file to the edges, that everything still fit like it's supposed to. The Clecos are just temporary. We'll replace those with these little black trim screws. So I'm sure you've all seen these in your Factory 5 inventory. They're just these little washer head screws that Factory 5 gives you to like install the dash and stuff. And for some reason you end up with extra ones. I have yet to figure out where the other ones go, because really the only ones that I know about are the 3 for the dash. So I always end up with extra ones at the end of every car build. So I just have a container full of them, and we use them for the under dash panel. So I think I'm going to go with a gloss black finish on the panels on the bottom. I may go with this satin. The problem with the satin is it tends to show fingerprints, and especially around those outlets that we've put in, the USB and the 12-volt. You really don't want fingerprints around those, and it's easier to wipe the gloss clean. So I don't know. I'm torn right now, but we'll see what I decide when I actually go down to the powder coater. So over on the other side, it's pretty much the same drill. Everything's cleaned up and put back in the car, and they'll come back out for powder coat. But you can see here, we just got Clecos holding that in too. And it makes the dash just so secure. So I mean, there's no movement in the dash whatsoever. And it's really important if you're gonna do one of our turn signals, because our turn signal mounts to the dash, and you really don't want the dash to, to push in when you're, driving or anything else, because the pins that self-cancel the turn signal rely on a certain clearance between the turn signal and the steering hub itself. And so if you're, not securing the bottom of the dash, you need to. But I think that's going to do it for this one. The next thing we're going to do is probably get some heat and sound mat installed in the car, and then I'm still working on getting ready for first start. But this is kind of the way things go. As much as I want to start the car, the other things have been they tug at your life, and you can't necessarily get exactly what you think you're going to get done, and so you have to kind of adjust. So if you guys are enjoying the content here, as always, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.